From San Antonio, Texas, home of the Alamo, the Riverwalk, and the World Heritage San Antonio Missions, this is the Exit Planning Coach podcast with John F. Dini. Designed to help advisors who work with business owners, John talks with top professionals in the exit planning field about best practices, marketing tips, and how to be more effective when working with owners. Now, here's John F. Dini.
Hi, I'm John F. Dini, and I decided to start this podcast off by answering the burning questions: who am I, and why should you listen to this podcast? I've been a business owner for over 30 years. I've signed both sides of my paycheck. I've owned an importing company, a manufacturer, and a healthcare management organization. I did several turnarounds, then I began consulting in the early 1990s. I lived on airplanes for 5 years, commuting back and forth all over the country. Finally, in 1997, I bought a franchise of the Alternative Board here in San Antonio. I was fortunate. San Antonio was a booming economy, and I was the most successful franchisee they had ever had. At one point, I had 120 business owners in 15 different peer groups that were operated by me, a partner, and 8 contract facilitators. We worked with over 400 owners, and I met every one of them and coached every one of them personally at some point in their membership. Eventually, however, I grew tired of selling advisory work. Although I knew how to do it and could sign up plenty of owners, I didn't get to deliver as much help as I wanted to. During that period, I also became a business broker. I was working on a tool to help business owners get ready for their transition, but more than that in just another minute. From business brokerage, I started exit planning in 2011 when I got my CEXP certification from BEI. I also went to EPI and got my CEPA certification in 2018. Business brokerage wasn't for me. It's too adversarial, and Main Street companies are too often totally unready to go through the transition process. But exit planning fascinated me. I took my Salability Index, which I had built as a business broker, and began to rewrite it as an exit readiness assessment. In 2015, we put that self-assessment, called the ExitMap, up on the website. At that time, I was also writing my second book, Hunting in a Farmer's World, which eventually took 13 awards. That distracted me, and nothing much happened with the online self-assessment. But in 2017, I decided to start working more with advisors to business owners. We re-engineered the exit map to produce 3 reports: the assessment, the analysis, and the action plan, so that advisors would have more ammunition, let's call it, to work with when they went in to meet with a business owner for the first time. In 2018, I started adding coaching tools from my experience in working with, by that time, almost 500 business owners. They included tools on finance, tools on discussing their management team, tools on their owner centricity. And in 2019, we rolled these together in a process called the ExitMap Express. Express 2.0 came about in 2022. We had already made all the tools enabled for remote work, which we did, fortunately, just before COVID hit, and it turned out to be a real selling point. But Express 2.0 was re-engineered into a 5-meeting format. Some of the tools were enhanced to be more interactive with the client, and we came out with the Your Exit Map final report, which helped owners understand what they wanted to do and what their options were, and understand it in a way where they were participants in every decision made. So that brings us to the podcast. There's lots of content out there for owners. There's a number of very good podcasts out there for business owners, but there's very little in the way of information for advisors other than the certification programs and the continuing education that goes with them. We wanted something for advisors that didn't require that they log it or watch it all, but would answer the practical questions every single day that come up when I'm working with advisors. How do I market? How do I sell? How do I coach people? How do I get into deeper relationships with these clients when we're discussing exit planning? How do we get them to discuss exit planning when they really don't want to discuss it at all? In 2021, we issued the first National Exit Planners Survey showing best practices and how exit planners worked with their clients. In 2022, we repeated that survey, and we will continue to do it annually going forward. Similarly, this podcast will address best practices. We'll interview successful exit planners. We'll talk about their methodologies. We'll talk more about working with business owners as opposed to why business owners should exit plan or why you should add exit planning to your business practice. We'll have the topics. We also hopefully will get into issues and challenges. I'm inviting exit planning coaches of all flavors and disciplines to submit questions or issues they have where we can talk about the problems we face and typical issues we face when working with business owners. The podcast is scheduled to come out with episodes twice a month on the second and fourth Mondays of each month. It will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, iHeart, and most other podcast sites, along with video version on YouTube. 2 surveys, one by EPI back in 2013 and one by Value Builder this year, have both shown that 75% of business owners are unhappy or have regrets with the results of their transition a year after they're out of their business. That is embarrassing for an advisory industry. We are on a mission to bring that number down. We believe that if you want clients to be happy a year after their exit, the coaching conversations you have at the outset are critical. This podcast will concentrate on those coaching conversations. I guess the last question is this my office? No, it is not. This is actually one of my favorite rooms in the world. It's the study room off the library in the monastery at the top of the hill overlooking Prague. We were lucky enough several years ago to be on a private tour that took us out of the public track and into this room, and it immediately became one of my favorite places on the planet. And I want to share it with everybody because it epitomizes learning and quiet reflection. And I think it's a great background for a podcast that's going to talk about learning and helping owners reflect on what they want from their businesses, which are only the most important financial event of their lifetimes. Remember, this podcast will be available wherever you get your podcasts, and new episodes will come out on the second and fourth Monday of the month, and I look forward to sharing with you and having you share with others. Thank you very much.